What's good everybody, Slowly here, and today we are back with another video, and today we're looking at the D3 Monk Season 19 speed build, PoJ Tempest Rush T16. Now this is one of the strongest builds I know, it's one of my favorite. This build works extremely well for clearing T16 rifts. You clear in about 1.5 to 2 minutes, and you need almost nothing for it. It doesn't matter if you're Paragon 200 or Paragon 2000, this will scale insanely well, and it works really well even with low gear and low Paragon. So in this video I'm going to show you all the things you need to make this build, so in terms of the gear, the skills, the passive, and how to play it. So hope you find this guide useful. Make sure to leave a like if you do, and let's get right into it, shall we? So some of the basic of the gear, we're using the 6-piece of the Patterns of Justice. This gives us a lot of damage, gives us 15,000% multiplier for everything, for all our damage. We have the Run Kim Lao, which gives a lot of damage to Tempest Rush, give up to 600%. We have the Windswirl Wind, which gives a lot of streaming wind stacks, but also damage. And we also have the Caesar's Memento, which gives 800% damage if you CC them up, which we do. And we also have the Balanced Weapon in our cube, which is another 600% multiplier. So as you can see, we have a ton of multipliers. Now the rifts you're watching me clear, I'm doing with 0 Paragon in, so I'm running with about 13k main stat, but you can see I'm one-shotting the elites anyway, so it doesn't matter if you have 13k main stat or 8k main stat, you'll one-shot no matter what, because it's such a strong build. Now gear-wise, on your weapons you want high secondaries, especially on your Rum Kun Lao. So priorities-wise, you want a high secondary, then you want percent damage, and then you want either some resource construction or maybe some cooldown. The same goes for your Windswirl Wind, although the secondary isn't as important as in your Rum Kun Lao. It is a bit more important to have a high damage roll, just have the higher rolls on it, and if you have a high secondary, that's good as well. Now, as I mentioned before, we have a lot of damage, which means that we can remove a lot of damage as well, just to get movement speed. So one of our wings here is the Rachel's Ring of Larceny, and you can see that the stats on this ring is super bad. I have life regen, I have strength on it, but what I'm after here is the secondary. So you have a chance to fear on hit, you want a high one, you want a high percent chance here, and also you have a high secondary, so you can gain up to 60%. You want this to be as high as you can. Now the ideal stats on this would be some crit chance, some cooldown, some crit damage, but it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Just get really high secondaries on both of them. On your hands, a very standard dex crit cooldown is sufficient. For the shoulders, you want a very standard, you want dexterity, you want always, you want cooldown, and then maybe some vitality or some area damage. Doesn't really matter a whole lot. The helmet is quite important. You do need dex, crit, and Tempest Rush, especially the Tempest Rush and crit chance. This might be pretty difficult to find, so prioritize them in terms of Tempest Rush, crit chance, and dex. Chest is very standard, dex with always. Now we are running with gold wrap in this build. This is our entire damage reduction, so it doesn't really matter a whole lot about the stats as long as you just use gold wrap. You can see mine has really awkward stats, but if you can find it, you want dex, vid, always, and percent life. On your pants you want dex, vid, and always. For boots you want dexterity, Tempest Rush, always, and vitality. Now for other ring we're using average band and obsidian Zodiac in the cube. It doesn't matter which one you have, just get some crit, some dexterity, but on the average band here we are after the secondary. In the secondary reach, each time you pick up gold you increase gold and health pickup radius by 1, staying up to 30 times. This means that you pick up all the globes, you pick up all the gold, which means that you don't have to worry about anything. You get all the progression globes, you get all the gold that drops, so you don't have to worry about picking it up. Now our braces are one of the most important items here. We have a secondary that can roll from 600 to 800. This is actually one of the most difficult items to find in this game with good stats. So you can see here, I have a secondary that's really high, but I did also have to sacrifice some crit hit chance for it. I only have 4.5, which is the lowest roll. So in this item here, stat price wise, you want higher secondary, then you want elemental damage, this is cold in this instance, and then crit chance, and then dex. Now for the neck, we're using the Flavor of Time. This is mostly for the secondary, but the stats are also quite important. So you want cold damage, you want crit damage, and it always rolls with cooldown, so just leave that on there. And for the final stat, you want crit chance or vitality or dex, whatever you can find, but the other stats, get those and you'll be good to go. Now for the gems, we are using Wreath of Lightning here. We don't really care about the effect in terms of the damage, but we are after the secondary effect. While under the effect of it, you gain 25% increased movement speed. Our second gem is Move the Hoarder. This gives us, so when you kill an enemy, you explode with gold. This is nice for just being able to empower your rifts, but also more importantly, the gold pickup gives you movement speed, and it also ties into gold web, so you also gain toughness from it. Now our third gem is our only damage gem. We are using Tagok. And you want to use Taker and not be in the trap, because Taker also gives us a lot of toughness. You gain 2% increased armor per stack, so lots of toughness, and you also get a big damage buff from it. So definitely use Taker, it works really well with Tempest Rush. Now for the cube, we are of course using the balanced weapon for our weapon slot. The damage of Tempest Rush is increased by 600%, and when your Tempest Rush hits 3 or fewer enemies, it gains 100% critical hit chance. This is very, very powerful, and also makes it so you always crit on with Guardians, which means that they one-shot them. Now for the armor slot, I'm using Nemesis Braces. What you can do if you're having a hard time fighting a Season's Memento with high secondary, just swap this out. So wear Nemesis Braces and then cube your Season's Memento. That will make it so you always have 800% secondary, which is very, very good. For the final jewelry slot here, we have Obsidian with the Zodiac. This reduces the remaining cooldown of your skills by 1 second, which means you have 100% uptime of your Epiphany. Now in terms of these rings, it doesn't matter where you have these on. You can equip the Obsidian with the Zodiac or the average band and cube the other. The only ring you must have equipped is the Rachel's Ring of Larceny, because otherwise you won't get the secondary chance to fear on hit. You will only gain the secondary, which is the increased movement speed. So make sure you have this one equipped, and then you can just use whatever one you have of the best stats in terms of your average band or your Zodiac, and then cube the other one as you see fit. Now for the skills, we're using Epiphany with Insight. This just gives us a lot of spirit regen, which allows us to move really quickly and to keep using our Tempest Rush. We're using Mantle of Conviction with Annihilation, but we don't really care too much about the damage. We are mostly after the passive, which means that when you kill an enemy that is affected by this mantra, you gain 30% movement speed. This is very nice. As you can see in this build, we are trying to stack as much movement speed as we can while still one-shotting everything we see. We're also using Dashing Strike. This is to get around the map. Don't be afraid to just use this, like spam it out. And we have the rune here with the Falling Star, which gives 20% increased movement speed, so another big movement speed increase. We're also using Streaming Wind, but as you might know, the 2-piece of the Patterns of Justice does give us every rune, so we don't really have to worry about which rune we pick. But we do want to pick the Cold rune, just because it actually does quite a bit of damage, and since we are using Cold for other spells, this will do quite a bit of damage actually. We are using Cyclone Strike here with Wall of Wind. This CCs the enemies, which means that our Season's Memento proc. And of course, the start of the build, we're using Tempest Rush with Flurry. Flurry gives us a massive ton of burst damage, so you can see in the gameplay, whenever I run over to a pack, I just pop it immediately on it. I don't care if I have 2 stacks or 10 stacks, almost no matter how many stacks you have, you will one-shot the elites. This is why this build works with 0 paragon. The burst damage you get from Flurry is just insane. Now for the passives, we are using Seize the Initiative. Let's make it so when you deal damage to enemies above 75% health, you gain 30% attack speed for 4 seconds. We're also using Beacon of Hitar. This reduces all cooldowns by 20%, very, very powerful. We're also using Fleet Footed here, just a basic increased movement speed by 10%. We're also using Momentum. This makes it so when we are moving 25 yards, we gain 20% increased damage for 6 seconds. So also just another basic damage increase. If you wanted to use this for hardcore, you can definitely swap out, your Fleet Footed for Cheat Death or Harmony, something like that, if you want more toughness. Now there's an alternative to this build. You can also play with Lightning, so get the Lightning rune on Tempest Rush and get the Lightning rune on your Streaming Wind, and this will be a bit more consistent damage but lower overall. So if you have like 2000 paragon plus, you have augments and everything, I would suggest swapping to Lightning because it's more consistent and it's more AoE radius. But if you're starting out or you have decently low paragon or you don't really have any gear, definitely want the cold version. And if you want a similar build to this that also works for Greater Rifts, I have a really, really strong build where you can clear Greater Rifts 110 in like 2.5 to 3 minutes. So definitely go and check that out. I will leave a link up here, so definitely go and check out that build. It is very, very strong. Now in terms of the playstyle of this build, it is very, very basic. What you want to do is you want to pop into the normal rifts. You want to immediately pop off your Epiphany to get the spirit regen going. Start casting Tempest Rush. You want to make sure you cast your Streaming Wind to get it rolling. And then simply just dash around, get from enemy to enemy. Don't be afraid to use your dash just to get around. You don't need more than a few stacks to one-shot the elite anyway. Now an important note is that we are using Gold Web for all our toughness. So as soon as you get into the rift, make sure to just kill a few enemies, just get a bit of gold, and you'll be invincible just with a little bit of gold. Now you never have to cast your Cyclone Strike, it would always proc itself. So all you have to worry about is keeping up your buffs, keep up your mantras, keep up your sweeping wind, and of course use your Tempest Rush, and then proc your Tempest Rush on enemies when you are close to them. Now there's quite a few ways to proc your Tempest Rush flurry. You can either dash directly on top of the enemy after you have CC'd them, so after your Cyclone Strike has pulled them around. You can also just let go of the button you have it on, but my favorite thing to do is to use the force move. So what you want to do is you're going to go into your options, and you're going to put on force move to your mouse wheel up and down, and then you can just hold down Tempest Rush, and when you are on the mobs, just simply scroll up and down on your mouse, and it's super easy, super good in the way of proccing your flurry stacks. I hope you enjoyed this guide. If you did, do make sure to leave a like and a comment down below. It helps me out a lot. And also let me know in the comments down below what is your favorite build this season. And if you haven't already, do make sure to hit the subscribe button, since I do post weekly content covering everything from guides to clears, and also of course PTR news and everything Diablo related basically. But that's about it for me this time around. Catch you on the next one, folks.
Till I get up, time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go.